Okay, so welcome everyone. It's good to see you. And today's topic is clear seeing, or Vipassana. You might have heard about this term, Vipassana meditation. Some people, they say, oh, I did a 10-day Vipassana retreat, or I'm practicing Vipassana. You hear that quite often in circles of people who do meditation. And so today I'm going to talk a little bit about Vipassana then. So the term Vipassana is not some sort of brand, as many people believe. It's some sort of meditation style that has been invented. It's not a brand, it's not something like that. It's the term in itself, if you translate it, it simply means clear seeing. That's all it means. And so when we practice Vipassana, then that's what we practice. We're practicing literally clear seeing. What do we see clearly? Well, we see clearly the way it is. So how is it? Well, you need to look. And that's Vipassana. Developing the ability to completely, honestly look at yourself. That's something that is rather difficult because most of us, we have learned to look at ourselves or to look at the world through a filter of thoughts and opinions, judgments, ideas, and so forth. So we're not really seeing the world as it is. Rather, we see the world as we think it is. Now, we can get really wound up in this. We can have arguments with our loved ones about differing opinions. We say, I think it is like this. And they say, no, it is like that. Excuse me, if possible, maybe you can turn your phones off during the class. That would be great. Okay, good, yes. Maybe just really also use the time. That's an important one. Thank you for mentioning. Actually use the time while in class. Not to collect information, but to actually look. To actually really right now, in this very moment, to practice what I'm pointing to. All these talks, they're also always aiming at a direct experience, here and now. This is not something for later. Like, okay, you go to class today, and then you go have dinner, and after dinner you're going to think a little bit about this. But this is an idea, it's very common, by the way. Most people go to such teachings and such talks because they want to know something new. They have a certain amount of information within themselves and then they try to add on to that. Hopefully, the more information I add on, the more completely I can be. Or the more I do, the more completely I can be. If I have a lot of dreams and I follow through and I realize all my dreams, then I can be. But right now, incomplete, unsatisfying. I need more. We like to dress that I'm not satisfied with myself. We like to dress it up in nice terms like, I have a lot of goals. I have a lot of ambitions. That sounds, it's culturally very accepted. If you don't have any goals, you're kind of a loser. You don't know what you want from life. And even though it is conventionally important to have goals and dreams, I'm now pointing to something completely different. I'm pointing to you, who you are, not who you will be, or who you might become, but who you are. And most people in our culture, in our societies, we learn from the first moment on that we are born that what you are is not enough. you need to add stuff to it. You need to add knowledge to it, you need to add experiences to it, you need to add success to it, you need to add money to it, you need to add houses to it, you need to add relationships to it. Only then can you be fully you. But is that true? If you ask yourself a question, what is it about you that does not take any time? What would that be? What about you doesn't take any time? There's so many things in our life that we consider that take time, right? I need to still become this or that. I'm not complete enough. I need more. But then soon, I can be more me. Just give me a little bit, 10 days more. Then I'll be more me. Just another relationship. Right now I'm single, I need another relationship. Then I can be complete. We even say that to our partner sometimes. You complete me. Are you a 50% thing? Are you incomplete? Are you a half? So that you need another person to be complete? We say these things without thinking very often, like what that implies. And even many things that are in society accepted as very noble. Wow, he's very ambitious. It could also be referred to as he's very restless. There's another word. It is not, we don't like to say it that way, but it could be referred to as that. He is very restless. He cannot rest. Or he doesn't feel complete. He's chasing something so he can feel more complete. And that's essentially also what ambition is. But without ambition, we wouldn't do what we do right now, what we do here. Without ambition, you wouldn't sit down and have the ambition to see yourself. So when it comes to meditation as one thing that we do in our life, you can't do meditation with a motivation that you have for worldly things. Like, I'm practicing meditation so I can add more stuff to myself. Meditation is not about this. Many other things are about this, and that's okay. I'm not saying that this is not okay and you should never add anything to yourself. You should have no ambitions, you should have no dreams. I'm not saying that. What I say is, in life there is more than just future. Wouldn't you agree with that? Isn't there more to you than just something that you could be? Isn't there more to you than just something that you might become? What about you doesn't take time? What doesn't have to get anywhere? What doesn't have to become anything else? What inside of you doesn't strive the other way? What inside of you doesn't try to be elsewhere? So that's one of the most neglected things in this world. It is our being. The quality of being. The quality of doing, that is highly celebrated. And we're all very good at it. We have mastered the aspect of doing. So much so that we are non-stop doers. So there is no balance in life. I'm not saying you should all become non-stop beers. I'm not saying that either, right? But I say you could do with a bit of balance, no? Not only I'm doing a lot so I can be one day, but how about I am, therefore I do? which is a very different quality. Your doing comes from presence, it comes from being, rather from a sense of lack. I need to do a lot, I need to get a lot, because it's secretly, deep down inside, I really feel a whole lot of lack. This moment in itself, it appears like unworthy, it's not good enough. I need to go to the next moment, which is seemingly much better than this. So the mind has this tendency to constantly go to the next thing, the next moment, the next experience, the next having, the next doing. That will be it, right? What that is called dissatisfaction. That's the word for this. Restlessness. And the problem with this is, once you get where you want it to be, you want to be somewhere else. That's that habit, right? I want to be there. So you go there, and look, the finger is still pointing away from you. You're still like, oh, I want to be there now. I went into this coffee shop close by the other day, and they have this funny sign there in the coffee shop that says, free coffee tomorrow. And I saw that sign after I heard a talk from Eckhart Tolle, where he mentions he was in a London pub where he saw free beer tomorrow. You know, it's a very powerful message. Free coffee tomorrow. Doesn't that really point to the fact that there is no tomorrow ever? You will never get your free coffee. You never get it. That's the genius of that sign. It's a deep teaching, actually. How about if you write, okay, I'm going to be a bit more or less drastic. Free coffee in 5 minutes. Is that possible? How about free coffee in a nanosecond? Do you ever get your free coffee? You never get it. You never get the free coffee, and that is frustrating. Essentially, this is spiritual disease that most people have. We do have leisure on the level of form. We have a lot of stuff. We have good food, good company, we have fun, we have entertainment, but something is just not, there's something there, that nagging sense of dissatisfaction. It's always somehow there, a little bit. Sometimes for some people the voice of that dissatisfaction is very silent, like a whisper. For some people it's very loud. And then for those who this voice is very loud for, some may say, I want to kill myself. That's like the pinnacle. I can't do this any longer. It's just so unsatisfying. Wherever I am, it's just suffering. It's just pain. Because there is no peace within themselves. They don't like themselves so badly that they want to kill themselves. And the way I always respond to that is, all right, go ahead. But you know, the body is innocent. It never did anything wrong. Leave your body alone, but kill the sufferer. That's the real problem, isn't it? The body doesn't do anything. It's just here. It's just like a tree. Just like a car. The real trouble is the one who suffers constantly. Yeah, the sufferer. It's not enough. Something must be different, you know. The wish for suicide can be a very deep spiritual yearning. Like a wish for an end of suffering. So profound, but we're so confused. We think all there is this body, and if I end the body, I end the suffering. Because all we know is kind of just the body. So we blame the body for a lot of things. So we blame other people's bodies for a lot of things. We like to point our finger to matter, to atoms, and say, I'm suffering because of those atoms. No, not really though. We're suffering because of the way we relate to those atoms. And we relate to ourselves. We just don't know what to do with ourselves. So when we sit somewhere quietly, still, now all that stuff comes up. The restlessness. That some people then turn away from meditation. I can't do this. I'm too distracted. They get a first glimpse, very honest, of who they are inside. And it's a shock. I'd rather just keep distracting myself. Thereby kind of further pushing away the urgency of the need that we need to deal with ourselves. It's a culture of endless distraction. That's a big problem, in my opinion. And we're getting really sophisticated nowadays with the way of how to distract ourselves. It's incredibly sophisticated. So fun, so much pleasure, and so empty. It's incredible. At the same time, so empty, yet so time-consuming. And then at the same time, it fills us with all kinds of more crap that then we later cannot face, and we need more distraction because we're so full of crap. I don't know, I have so many thoughts, I can't sleep at night. Let me have a look at Facebook. Putting a few more thoughts in, which gives me a bit of distraction, but then on the long run, it doesn't work. Of course not, because the technique that we use to find happiness, it doesn't work. It's an improper technique. So everything we tend to get is just this constant up and down in life, Let me go there, and then you go there, and it turns out it's just the same thing in a different shape. And okay, let's go there then. Then we go there. Same thing. We've all been doing this for many, many years, and for many of us, we have to keep doing this until we wake up. We have to keep doing this a bit more, like this up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down. This, okay, I'm going to be more complete later, but first let me do this. So what is Vipassana? Vipassana means that you're honestly sitting down and seeing yourself with honesty, clearly. That's what clearly indicates. Sincerely, honestly. You're not running away from what you see. Some refer to the practice of clear seeing as non-distraction. Not in the sense that you're completely focused on just one thing, but you're not running away from what you see. That's pretty tough. That's difficult. That's not easy. And in the beginning, it will reveal just how much we hate ourselves, for most people. It is self-hate that makes you want to run away from yourself. Self-hate is at the root of the need for so much distraction. Why else? If you would be super comfortable with yourself, you wouldn't need distraction. Like you don't need distraction when you're having sex, because it's nice. If it's not nice, you might need distraction. Then it's nice that the TV runs in the background or something like that. You can watch the news while having sex. But if you do have good sex, then you forget everything. If you dance, and you love to dance, it's not about getting anywhere. Is dancing about getting to the end of the dance? You don't need to get to the end of the dance, like, I have ambitions. I need to get to the end of the dance fast, efficiently. Only that is success. As soon as the music ends, success. No, the dance itself is success. And it's more successful if you learn to be here with every step, if you're completely, undividedly here. And so Vipassana, you can romantically refer to it as a dance with yourself. You learn, differently maybe, you learn to let your body and mind dance. and you appreciate the dance. And then you will slowly see just how much you don't like what you see. How much you need to get out of what you see. I don't like it. I feel itchy. I want to scratch. I feel hungry. I want to stop. I want to eat. I want to do something else. All of a sudden, all these urgent things come up. You got to answer your emails. You didn't answer your emails. Do it now. Then you can sit for meditation. Just interrupt your meditation. Just 10 minutes. Just answer your emails. It might be something important that's there. Then continue with your meditation. And suddenly everything else becomes more important. Trust me, I've been there many, many times and I'm still getting there, but I catch it. Like all of a sudden I'm sitting down, I'm getting ready for my meditation practice, and in the corner I see a little piece of dust there, over there. And I'm like, oh, I should clean that before I start. And then I get up and I go over there to the little piece of dust and I pick it up and I bring it to the bin, coming into the kitchen, and I see a drink. So I have a drink of water. As I drink, my phone rings. I'm like, okay, I might as well just pick up. And it just goes from one to the other. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, time's up. Now I have to answer my emails. I set aside time every day for meditation, right? And after that I would do work. I would do my work. Many people believe that I'm constantly floating or something. No, I'm just also working and I'm doing human things. Just normal stuff that everyone does. And Vipassana is great in the sense that you can do it anywhere, anytime. You're not bound to space and time when you're practicing Vipassana. It is about seeing right now what is arising and what is passing inside of your field of experience. So would that be right now? Let's say you're feeling restless. You're like, oh, when does he stop talking? I want to go and have steak. So you're feeling restless, you're visualizing your steak, you're feeling even more restless. Like, okay, you're having a look at your watch. Now can you see that? Maybe you're bored. Maybe you're highly interested. You're like, whoa, that's so profound. That's such a mind blow. Maybe you feel like, all right, I've heard it before. I know all that stuff. Oh yeah, Vipassana, yeah, I know what he's talking about. All these various states, can you see them? And then can you see how you react to them? Like, let's say, I'm just meditating, breathing in, breathing out, breathing in, breathing out. Suddenly I hear the baby out there. I'm like, ooh, baby. The baby is screaming. It's still screaming. I can't concentrate on my breath. Oh, and then suddenly I notice, okay, distraction. Now that's quite powerful, because I can know distraction and concentration. Now that in itself, which knows distraction and concentration in itself, doesn't move. It's complete non-distraction. You see the mind wanders, it goes out, it goes in, it does this, it does that, and you see every single move clearly. Now you get distracted, suddenly you feel guilty about distraction, say, I should be a better meditator, I'm too distracted, oops, I felt guilty about distraction, I shouldn't feel guilty about distraction. You feel guilty about feeling guilty. And you see every single reaction to whatever happens before that. You hear a sound, and it reminds you of the good old days when you were younger, you were at the beach with your parents, holding the hand of your mom. Suddenly you remember it, oh yeah, I was holding the hand of my mom, and you get completely carried into some huge story of how holding the hand of your mom and holding the hand of your girlfriend, I wonder, would that be a Freudian slip if I just oh, that's rubbish, no, stop thinking so much, this doesn't make any sense, let's go back to the breath, I should go back to the breath. Can you see all that? All these thoughts, all these random thoughts that come up, can you see them clearly? Arise and pass, arise and pass. The various emotions that come into your mind. Suddenly you're angry. Suddenly you're really sad. Can you allow that? Can you allow yourself to have all these human emotions? That's a difficult one. Normally sadness comes up, we do everything to get it out. I shouldn't feel sad. Guess what? I see a lot of people cry at our retreats. A lot of people break down and cry. Now, guess what the first thing is that they say when they cry? I'm sorry. It's funny. Everyone says that. They're like, oh, I had a really good meditation, all of a sudden, like I could see all my past and I could see just how much I hate myself, and then it released. And then they start to cry. And then they say, I'm so sorry, I'm such a mess. Catch that one too. See that one too. Crying, 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 crying. Feeling guilty about crying. Feeling guilty about crying. Can you see it? That is such a pure state of honesty. And you're fully accepting yourself. You're not lost inside of what goes on in your mind and in your body, but you see very clearly what goes on in your mind and your body right now, right here. And that quality of seeing clearly what goes on in mind and body, that's just the first step. Developing the knowing quality. How do we do that? So at first, you want to observe mind and body. Feelings arise and pass, the five senses arise and pass, sounds and so forth, all that arises and passes. Thoughts, emotions, all the mental stuff arises and passes. All the various things that come into your mind, they arise and pass. See that for a while. Just things arising, passing, arising, passing. Then the second step is to notice that there is something that's aware of arising and passing. There is an observing quality. There is a knower, as we say. A knowing, a conscious quality there. You can actually step back and see that all these various personality traits come and go. And if you can sustain that awareness for long enough, like a separation happens. We call that detachment. Not in a sense, I mention it all the time, not in a sense of cold-heartedness, but in a sense of separation. You simply see what goes on in your body and mind as something that goes on in body and mind. But it's not you. It's just something going on in body and mind. That's a big insight right there already. So the quality of awareness is literally bringing you to such a degree back from stuff. It takes out the involvement. It's a bit like you've been born into a BMW, you've been raised in a BMW, and so you came to think you were a BMW. And so you tell all your people, I'm quite fast, I'm sophisticated, I'm shiny, whatever, I'm blue. And for the first time in your life ever, someone points out like, hey, have a look at the door handle there. Just open it. Take a step outside. And for the first time in your life, you actually step out and you see that, oh, that's the BMW over there. And I'm over here. And my entire life long, I thought I was that. Now I clearly see that, no, that's not what I am. It's just a BMW. So if you can step out of your body, step out of your mind, I'm not talking about out-of-body experience. I'm talking about being aware. of your body and your mind. That quality of awareness, of consciousness, is already out. It's already disentangled. But this conscious quality, normally, for a worldling, it is bound up with body and mind. So we think, I'm Tobi, I'm a man, I'm a political this, political that, and I'm a Buddhist. All that is not true. Essentially what is true is, yes, there is a body and yes, there is a mind. And the mind has been conditioned by culture, society, upbringing, media and so forth for my entire life long. It's like a recording device. It's recorded all kinds of stuff. And the body too. It's a conditioning process, like a tree. It grows, it gets old, and it falls down at some point. If you can see that you're free from the body, free from the mind, essentially, you are not entangled in these things. That is the taste of what the Buddha points to in his entire path. Any authentic spiritual discipline that points to development of consciousness or awareness is always pointing to the fact that we are unbound to whatever goes on in the mind, whatever goes on in the body. That is a great freedom. And that freedom is blissful. That is true happiness. This being unbound, independent. So whatever the body and mind do, you're free from it. And so you've realized, okay, I'm not the BMW, and all of a sudden the BMW starts burning, you're fine. It's not me burning, it's a BMW burning. Like let's say anger comes into your mind due to a certain condition. Let's say the habit of anger is very strong inside of you. So whatever you see, it is easy to cause anger within you. And such a thing arises. Someone cuts you off on the street, anger comes up. Now if you have the quality of seeing that, you can see now the mind is on fire, but you're out of it. This is not me, it's just anger. It's not who I am. It just comes and goes. So you're free from it. You're happy. You're unbound, released. Now what if a happy feeling comes into your mind, the good stuff? You're in love, you just won the lottery. What about the happy stuff, right? Well, if you let go of that, you're happier. It's a win-win. You let go of the unhappy stuff, you're free. Freedom is the highest taste of happiness, always. But the happiness that we know from our worldly endeavors, the happiness of body and mind, that's always dual. You can't get hope without fear. It's impossible to separate both of them. We usually glorify hope. We say, without hope, that you are nothing and we need hope and all that. But hope is just the other side of the coin of fear. They can't be separated. They don't make sense with each other, without each other. Like death doesn't make sense without birth. You can't die if you weren't born. You can't hope if you wouldn't have fear. You can't fear if you wouldn't have hope. It's impossible. You can't separate these dual things. Happiness and joy and sadness and depression, all that kind of stuff, you can't separate it from one another. They don't make sense without each other. It's yin-yang. It's a duality of this universe. Every goodness needs badness to make sense. So that's why freedom, the freedom of Vipassana, of clear seeing, is the highest taste of happiness. Very often I give this example of this prison with the infinite number of cells. You might have heard it already. I just love it a lot, so I say it again. I just keep bothering you with it. So you have this prison with infinite amount of cells, okay? And every cell, there's just 3 types of cell in this prison. There's the hell cell, that's every experience from slightly bad to really bad. Then there is the average cell, it's average. And there is the heaven cell. That's every experience from slightly comfortable to super extremely comfortable. Now my question to you is, where do you want to be? Those of you who know the answer, don't say it. Where do you want to be? So you have heaven cell, average cell, hell cell. Where do you want to be? Anyone? Where do you want to be? Make your choice. Heaven, okay. Anyone else for heaven? And so anyone on the safe side opting in for average? Average, yeah? Anyone hell? No? Nobody? Not a great surprise. So now you have these three types of cells, right? Is there anyone now who would think of another option?
How about no cell?
How about no cell? I presented these three cells to you, and then I asked you in a very tricky way, because I love being tricky, where do you want to be? I did not ask you which cell do you choose. I asked you, where do you want to be? Very tricky. So you got to think outside of the box. Literally. And you see, most people on this earth have been completely conditioned, entirely conditioned, to know that there are only these three things: bad, good, and average. We don't think that there could be a fourth thing that is completely free from those three. Because everything you get in life, whether it is good, bad, or average, it doesn't stay. Good doesn't stay good. The bad doesn't stay bad. In fact, one constantly traverses into the other. The good becomes bad, the bad becomes good, and so forth, and so forth, and so forth, endlessly. So we need to let go of this linear thinking, like, okay, now I'm at A, and I'm supposed to be up there at B, and life is a linear progression towards the infinite happiness of B, where I'll be happy ever after. You won't get there. It doesn't matter where you go, what you do, who you're with, what you have, what you don't have. That doesn't make a difference. You'll always end up just with change, more change, more change. You get the good stuff, you buy into the bad side of the coin too. You get the hope, you get the fear. So that's why it's a prison. You don't really have a choice in a prison. Where do you want to stay either, right? In a prison, it is determined by the guards in which cells you stay. What does that mean? Well, if your wife tells you, I don't love you anymore, boop, you go to hell cell. Even though you don't want to be in hell cell, your wife just threw you there. Boop, you're in. That's meaning you're not free. Or someone disagrees with you, you feel grumpy. You don't choose to feel grumpy because you're not free. Or suddenly the body gets sick. You have a great time and then you get food poisoning. You don't choose to get food poisoning. You're in prison. The body has food poisoning. Even though we are all desperately trying to avoid problems, we all have problems all the time. That's because we're not in charge of what happens in the prison. Okay, you can say some people, they're good. They're navigating around in prison pretty good. They get to hang out with the right gangs. They're predominantly dwelling in some heavenly cells up there for most of the time, even though sometimes they have a hell experience, but most of the time, good experience. Doesn't matter, they're still in prison. They're still bound to their pleasure and they're still bound to pain. So Vipassana is that method that gets you unbound, disentangled from all the stuff that just keeps spinning around and around and around. A good way to illustrate that would be like a hurricane. You have the eye of a hurricane, which is completely calm, isn't it? There's not one single bit of wind in the eye of a hurricane. When I was younger, we saw this documentary of like scientists going into the center of a hurricane for the first time, and they were going with an airplane. They were going through the walls of the hurricane, which is a very bumpy ride. And as soon as they come to the center, dead quiet. And their measuring instrument is just completely still. There's not one bit of wind, nothing. And the sky is blue, and you can see these gigantic walls, the cloud walls around. It's just amazing. So our body and mind are like these cloud walls. They spin around. They are born and they die. They are happy and then angry. This and that. If you have a center, you're at peace no matter what. That's the goal. When you are at peace with yourself, your doing comes from there. It doesn't come from the walls. It doesn't come from dissatisfaction. It comes from peace. That's a totally different quality of doing. It's inspiring, it's uplifting. Wherever you step, there is peace. Wherever you step, there is inspiration. Wherever you step, that's where problems end. So that's the possibility. That's what we use Vipassana for, the clear seeing quality, the quality of consciousness, of awareness, the essence of your mind. The ability to be unentangled, free from whatever goes on in the mind, the content, whatever goes on in the body. Realizing, I'm not the body, I'm not the mind. And the final step is, turn the light around, look at awareness itself and find there's nothing that's aware. There's no center. There's no being that's aware. No golden kind of point of awareness. But awareness is like space. So that's when you're done, basically. When you see clearly into that. So the practice is a continuous looking at phenomena for first, seeing them arise and pass, seeing that this is not what I am, this is not who I am, I'm not owning those phenomena. Second step, realizing the knowing quality directly. Third step, seeing into the emptiness of that knowing quality directly. So this is what Vipassana is all about. And Vipassana is not some meditation brand or technique. It's a facet of, it's a tool that the Buddha gave. It's a tool. Like he gave many tools. Kindness, compassion, concentration. And Vipassana is one of them. Okay? So that's pretty much all that came to mind for today.